right, guys, I'm sure you've heard the news by now, and if you saw PK's live last night, then you know what we're going to be talking about, which is going to be, of course, PSA buying SGC cards out. That's right, the parent group of PSA has now just purchased out CGC cards, and today we're going to be talking about that right after this. All right, guys, I'm Andy with Northwoods TCG, and today we're going to be talking about, of course, PSA's parent company, Collectors Holding, buying out SGC Grading Company here and acquiring it here coming forward. So it's a very interesting topic, and when we take a look at Collectors Holding Investment Group, it's a very interesting dynamic on how quickly this is becoming the one-stop shop for everything when it comes down to your collectibles, which can be a good thing sometimes, and other times it can be very bad. Once again, we're looking at that conglomeration of a complete market change to almost force you to use them and them alone. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they continue to move forward. And today we're going to kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about what we're seeing so far when it comes down to the actual acquisition of these two companies and the merger into the Collectors Holding Investment Group. And once again, we're going to kind of look down the rabbit hole a little bit on what could happen futuristically when it comes down to it. So let's do a little bit of a timeline on what we've seen so far when it comes down to the Collectors Holding Investment Group purchasing up companies. Now, according to my timeline, and I could be wrong with the PSA purchase, I thought it was sooner than this, but I'm going to tell you the timeline that I found even with PSA website announcements and things like that. Golden Auctions was purchased roughly July of 2021. That was the first major purchase from Collectors Holding Investment Group. That was a big change for grabbing a collectors-based auction house with Golden Auctions. And then in December of 2021, they merged or acquired PSA and brought that into the company. Also in implementing Nate Turner as the CEO of PSA at that point in time. Now, I thought that had happened in 2020, so I could be completely wrong, and maybe my timeline is skewed, but all the information I can get is from 2021. I thought that they had actually done that Nate Turner was actually in charge of PSA or the CEO before they made that call and before that they shut down PSA, and I thought that he was the one that made that call, and the shutdown in PSA happened roughly February 2021. So I thought that was kind of interesting in the timeline, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my whole thing is all skewed. But overall, maybe there's some other information. Maybe they had already taken it over in 2020, and I'm just seeing dates wrong, or maybe the article dates are 2021. So it's just kind of interesting when it comes down to that factor. But overall, we're seeing some really quick growth and expansion coming from this Collectors Holding an Investment Group. Now, here we are, flash forward to 2024, and now we have the purchase of SGC happening right now as of today. And that's as of the recording of this. It has all been announced that they have acquired SGC. Now, my concerns are, and this is where I always get concerned when we start seeing conglomeration of collectibles or any kind of market when it comes down to it. It creates a one-stop shop potential for these companies to do that. And they are slowly taking out competitors that are potentially growing on the sidelines. PSA has really slow turnarounds. SGC has very fast turnaround times. So a lot of companies and places are using SGC for those quick turnaround items, especially in these fluctuating markets that happen extremely quickly. Are we going to see SGC slow down and become closer to PSA timeframes? Are we going to see PSA using SGC equipment and employees to be able to speed up their facilities? I don't know exactly how overall that's going to continue to work, or are they just going to continue to work under umbrella companies and run the same names? You're running under a Collectors Holding Investment Group, which is called an umbrella companies, or they keep the names of the original companies, but sometimes they implement new management schemes, new individuals to run these companies, better management, sometimes better advertisement, and more money behind them to be able to implement better changes and faster turnaround times, maybe better equipment and overall better quality when it comes down to that part of the investment side and growing that company. So there are advantages to an umbrella company, but there also are disadvantages because no longer are you having direct competition between PSA and SGC. If you use either one of them now, they're both getting the money for it. So they're both going to a central location with that Collectors Holding Investment Group. So once again, you're conglomerating everything down to where they're going to centralize. Now, personally, I am waiting for them to be purchasing up AGS, or I'm waiting for them to pick up GMA. You could be seeing these things in the next few years where we could see even more conglomeration from this particular company. Am I saying that that's going to happen? No, it's just speculation that if you continue to see Collectors Holding Investment Group continue to grow and continue to expand at this pace, I mean, you're talking a total, if it was 2020, even 4 years. In 4 years, They've purchased three multi-million-dollar companies and merged them into one underneath this investment group. Are they going to stop there? Are they going to continue to push forward and try and get CGC? Are they going to try and get some of these other side grading companies that have a pretty good reputation, have a good opportunity to get into something different or more niche markets and try and capture those niche markets for themselves? Those are all things that will be yet to be seen when it comes down to these particular items. Now, do I think that this could be a good thing? Yes, as I've said in the previous points, when you're looking at an umbrella company, you have more funding inside of these from this investment group to be able to grow these companies. We could see these companies do extremely well. We could see PSA turnaround time shrink. We could see SGC turnaround times increase, but we could see a good leveling between them where they use both facilities to the advantage. They might stick PSA's name on them. They might keep it SGC, but it might be able to implement more employees and move more of that staff around to be able to equalize those particular items to increase the grading time on those particular places. And once again, SGC, really, really well known for being quick turnarounds. It usually takes 5 to 10 days in order to get your cards turned around through SGC. And PSA, of course, right now is about a month. It's about a month to 45 days, depending on how lucky you are and how quick it goes through the turnaround times. So they could be looking at ways to reduce that for PSA. Maybe when you go to the PSA website, they might turn it into one big website and you pick based on your time frame. So if you want a faster time frame, but without the recognition, you send to SGC. And if you want to have the recognition of a PSA slab, then you pick the PSA side of things. And that's going to go by lead time and get you the little bit longer lead time, but more prestige of the PSA line. And that's things that we could be seeing coming forward. It's going to be really interesting overall to see how they merge these two companies and how these acquisitions continue to move forward and what kind of benefits we might be seeing as a company. But overall, I start to get a little bit concerned on the speed of Collectors Holding Company Investment Group. I understand that they probably don't have ill intent, or maybe they do want control of the whole side business of the collecting hobby, whether it's sports cards, whether it's PSA for Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, all the different grading spectrums. They're all going to be affected by the fact that we now lost SGC as an independent company. And now PSA is going to be probably ruling a little bit more of it underneath that Collectors Holding investment group, which Nate Turner is really, really pushing to grow the collector side of it for that particular company. So keep an eye. It's going to be really interesting to see in the next few years what this Collectors Holding investment group does. Are we going to see more mergers of some of these sideline grading companies that have been a problem? Are we going to see them potentially going for some more auction houses or something even bigger than that? They're going to start looking at different avenues that collectors uses, such as possibly even looking at expanding into distribution and things like that. If they are truly looking at this as a collectors holding company and trying to expand those particular markets for collectors to the collectors and all that other good stuff that they might put out there, they could see this going. Now, not saying anything bad against Nate Turner. I keep wanting to say Matt Turner. Nate Turner. I definitely don't have any ill will to him, and I understand as a business that these are smart moves when it comes down to the growth of the company. If you're trying to maintain a good market share on those particular, on the collector's hobby, purchasing more of these side branch little items, that's just grading companies such as auction houses, things like that that people are using are definitely going to be an advantage for growing that collector's base and keeping that collector's base with a nice market share for yourself. And now just by buying SGC, they did grab another chunk of that market share, and it's not huge. SGC compared to PSA is not very big, but they still do grade over 1.2 million cards a year, compared to PSA doing about 13.5. So, I mean, you're seeing a big increase in those particular numbers, and that's going to be a big factor is that now they've just grabbed another huge market share, moving even further away from CGC and Beckett when it comes down to that growth. And overall, it gives them more buying power futuristically. The more of these companies that they get and can become more successful and start putting more money into the pockets of the investors of the Collectors Holding investment group, that means that they could also expand even faster. So even though we're seeing 3 years from one to the other, who knows? We might be seeing something in another 2 years or 1 year, depending on how well these expansions continue to go for that investment group. So these are all things that I kind of watch for. I do think that it's not a bad thing yet at this point. Them just grabbing SGC is not going to change the market all that much. Overall, it's just hopefully they keep them short turnaround times for the people that are using it for the quick market influx that they're trying to get ahead of. It was a great advantage for that point. You know, CGC was also another one that has great quick turnaround times. You can usually get them in 10 to 15 days. SGC a little bit faster than them. PSA, of course, you're getting the prestige. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes in the next few months. There's a lot of good information out there. Once again, watch PK's live. He had some very good information on there. Also, rather than beating a dead horse and going over everything, there's some really good sources out there that have already been talking about this. I just want to talk to you guys about what I'm seeing when it comes down to this. And it'd be really interesting to keep an eye on Collectors Holding Investment Group for where this could potentially go, 10 years down the road. How many more market shares are they going to try and grab from grading companies to auction houses to potentially any other part of the hobby? Maybe they'll start going after something like TCG Player. Granted, I'm not saying they're buying TCG Player. eBay just bought that one, so it's going to be hard to get that out of eBay's mitts at this point. But they could come up with a design or find a company that's running similarly and try and grow that with the investment money that they have behind it. So overall, there's some really interesting things that are going on currently when it comes down to this. Keep an eye on this particular company. This Collectors Holding Investment Group is definitely going to be something to watch when it comes down to your collectors, not just Pokemon fans, guys. This is for sports cards. This is for anything when it comes down to it. This company is really driving these investors are really driving to take big market shares of all of the hobby in the collectors groups. Anything that's graded, all these things that are gradable and have that potential to be in a collector's base, they're definitely looking at growing that market. And it's not just going to affect Pokemon. It's going to affect sports cards. It's going to affect Magic collectors. It's going to affect all kinds of collectors futuristically down the road if they continue to expand. And once they get a big enough market share and they have enough name recognition behind them with that investment group, it doesn't take long before they can start raising prices and start controlling that market and bullying themselves around to make them the number one advantage when it comes down to this hobby. So keep that in mind. Not bad things yet. I think that it could be good for overall for PSA and for SGC. It's going to give SGC that money to be able to push forward and have that good investment backing to be able to maybe grow facilities and go even better, better technology to do better grading and get more prestige because now they're behind the PSA name with the Collectors Holding Investment Group behind them. Also, it may shift the way that the PSA market is working or PSA grading goes, because you might be able to get alternative or more time sensitive things through because of SGC grading being part of the family now. So we'll be seeing how this all merges together. Hopefully this just gives you a little bit of awareness what's going on. Hopefully you can see where I'm coming from when it comes down to an investment group, when it comes down to Pokemon. Buying up so many different companies so quickly can be a little bit concerning to see how this is going to end and where this is going to go in the near term and the long term. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out for the collectors and all the different hobbies when it comes down to your true passions, when it comes down to these hobbies and how much this could affect them futuristically. So once again, guys, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have had a good week so far. Once again, if you missed it, we were talking about business planning and Pokemon. So if you didn't see the live on Tuesday, make sure you hit the link down below and join us for the live where I talked to Terry Lake about how to properly set up your investment businesses or your hobby businesses in the Pokemon TCG and what kind of business structures you should be looking at and tax structures you should be looking at to better help you set that up with the new tax regulations and things that are coming forward. So definitely click the link down below. It'll be down in the description for you guys, or I might just throw it up, over my head right over there, just like I always do, so you guys can find it. And other than that, guys, we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.